Hello and welcome to the Sustainable Enterprise Podcast, brought to you in association with Enterprise Ireland. I'm Bobby Kerr, your host for the podcast series, which will bring you sustainability stories of Irish businesses. For this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Nick Reynolds. He's the head of sustainability with O'Brien Fine Foods. Nick, you're very welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here and to share our story.
Now, tell us a little bit about your story, about your business, and how it all began.
Well, certainly. So as you know, we are a cooked meats provider. So we have 4 proteins in our product range. That's mainly ham, pork, beef, and then our poultry, turkey, and chicken. So the business began with Mary and Ozzie Brady back in 1978, so a good while back. And out of their kitchen down in Timahoe in County Kildare, they began to cook their hams using their traditional home method in preparing and cooking that. And then Bill O'Brien bought the business in 2000,
right,
with the vision of growing the business, but at the same time ensuring that we kept the traditions. And he's often heard quoting Ozzie, why make a bad ham when you can make a good ham? And the secret is really in that recipe, in that fermentation. And it is today as it was then. We haven't changed a thing. We've kept it exactly the same. So fast forward 24 years, or let's say back in 2000 when we bought the company, we started with 18 employees on one site down in Timahoe. That existing site has grown excessively. 24 years later, we have 700 people, plus minus 700 people over 3 sites, soon to be 4 sites, 2 in the Republic of Ireland and 1 at the moment in the UK, with another one opening at the end of the year. We have 3 brands. We have Brady's, which would be the most known brand. Green Farm, which is more of our poultry, so chicken and turkey, and then Bearfields of London, which is in the UK, which is a newer business of ours, as well as then supporting a lot of the retailers on their own labels.
So what brought about, I suppose, the want to increase the level of sustainability within this business? And it sounds like a great business.
It is, and to be totally honest, I think it's always been there in one way or another. We've always had very close connections to the family side of things, to the community, and we've always wanted to keep that. So Bill and John would often be heard saying that it's so important to do the right thing. And that's really filtered down in all the decisions that they've made within the businesses over the last, I would say, 24 years while they've been in power. And maybe one of the key things to show here is it might cost more in the short term, but in the long term, it really will hopefully pay off for us. And an example here is when we moved to 100% Bord Beer quality assurance product. So we were the first company to do so here in Ireland. It obviously emphasizes our emphasis on quality, but also the extent that we would go to ensure that we are always looking at keeping a quality product on the shelf. In 2021, the business decided to build their new 5-year strategy. And a key part of the strategy was our purpose. And when I talk about our purpose, that's effectively our sustainability strategy.
Right.
And this is one of our 4 key pillars within the business. It's our purpose, which is sustainability, profit, revenue, and our people, which arguably is an important part of sustainability and the whole ESG role. So those 4 elements are what we make all of our decisions on and how we want to take the company forward.
You mentioned the word profit there. There really is a strong business case for sustainability, isn't there?
Most certainly. And I think we understand that more now than we ever have. If we want to stay relevant in the future, we're going to have to ensure that we understand the risks coming down the line, or let's say the challenges coming down the line in relation to environmental, social aspects, and how we're actually going to embed that into our business and the strategy that we take forward. While we implemented that strategy, we brought in a sustainability function, dedicated sustainability function.
Which is you.
Which is me, 3 years ago. And I guess it was my role to really develop and embed the sustainability practices within the organization. And we did that under 3 key pillars. So when we looked at sustainability, we looked at better made, better sourced, which is really our supply chain, better made, which is our own operations and our people, and better for you, which is looking at our products that we sell and how we're making them as sustainable and as healthy, quality assured as possible. So that's really what our sustainability agenda looks at. Everything from farm all the way to our consumer's house. So it really does follow our full value chain.
Can you give me some examples, Nick, about these specific sustainable actions that you've taken across the business? Maybe some things that worked, some things that didn't.
Yeah. So one was trying to really embed systems. So as I said, Nick and my team aren't going to go and make our business sustainable. It's how are we working with all of our various partners, departments, with all of our people to help them understand their ways that they can support in their day-to-day roles. So a big part of that was building those systems. And in order to ensure that ensure that those systems were best in class, we went down a journey of certification, third-party certification through B Corp. So that would be a sustainability certification where a company would come in, they would assess not just our governance structures, but all the systems that we had in place to set targets around sustainability, to put the systems in place to ensure that we have active projects and actions to achieve on those targets. How are we measuring our success and the impact that we're making, and how are we reporting on it? So effectively, it's helping us lay that platform for how we can build on that going forward.
So just on B Corp then, where are you on that particular certification?
So we achieved that certification on the 27th of February, 2023, so last year.
Right.
It's a fantastic achievement. We were the 16th Irish company to achieve it. I think there's well over 40 Irish companies that have achieved it now to date, and I know it's only growing. And I think when you look at it in the UK market and globally, there's over 8,000 B Corps out there. So we join a community where we see business as playing more than just a role of making a profit, but how is business actually supporting positive impact through our supply chain and our suppliers and customers and so on.
And has B Corp then allowed you collaborate and work with other like-minded businesses? Has it opened up a new community to you that's embedded around sustainability?
Most certainly. And the nice thing is that they're not all food and drink companies.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, we all share very, very similar sustainability challenges. So there's a huge amount of learnings that taking just from being a part of that group. But at the same time, when you look at the conversations or the engagement that we're having with our suppliers and with our customers, which would be the large retailers, they're also demanding us to be more sustainable. And what are we doing to ensure that we're more sustainable? So by having B Corp there, it's really a good opportunity for us to go and showcase that we do have the systems in place, that it's not just us saying that we're doing this. And there's some level of confidence that they're working with a company that shares their sustainability vision.
Have you any other examples, Nick, of, I suppose, sustainable innovation or indeed collaboration within your own business?
I'll touch on a couple of the innovations first, and then we can go how collaboration ties into that. So one, a critical focus area for us, being a meat producing company, we know that climate action or climate impact is a critical area that we need to focus on. So what we've done is, one, we've measured our footprint, and not just our own direct footprint, but our footprint across our whole supply chain. So we know where the impact actually lies. We've went and set really, really robust targets and got those verified through the Science Based Targets Initiative. So that's SBTI. And that would allow us to say that the targets that we set would allow us to play our part in reaching the 1.5 degree threshold, right?
Okay.
And that 1.5 degree threshold came out of the Paris Agreement back in, I think it was 2015. So we've set targets that are best in class. But now it's about obviously building that decarbonization roadmap to go and achieve that. Internally, that's fine. We can manage that. And it's around investments, it's around process change, it's around more efficient ways of operating effectively, right? But majority of our carbon impact or environmental impact is within our supply chain. It's at farm level. So that brings the collaboration piece in, is how are we actually working with our suppliers so that we're sharing the same vision as our suppliers,
right,
so that we can start having more meaningful conversations in coming up with those new ways of working or additional supports that we can provide the farmer to be able to not just better understand what his emissions are and where they're coming from, but how he can actually go about improving on that. And I think at this point in time, there is a lot of disjointedness in this whole area of climate action. But as soon as more of us are aligning on the targets that we're setting, I think that really does open up the conversation for further collaboration down the line. And we're seeing it happen, especially like within the beef sector. A lot is happening with the process of the farmer industry agencies such as Board Beer and Chuggas, all getting involved to pretty much perform like one project, right?
Okay.
It's just how are we learning from that and filtering it down into our other protein sources.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. What about your engagement with employees? You mentioned suppliers there, the farmers and customers. So you mentioned the farmers, your customers, basically engaging with them on sustainability. How do you do that?
Funnily enough, we're in the process now of going through a materiality assessment. And a materiality assessment's a fancy word for engagement, right? Stakeholder engagement. So it's how are we building our engagement channels with all of our key stakeholders? And you just mentioned a lot of them. Suppliers, and we spoke about that a little bit earlier. How are we engaging with our suppliers on these topics and building the innovations for the future?
Yeah.
Customers, which for us would be our key retailers. How are we working with them on ESG sustainability projects, whether that's food waste, whether that's human rights in our supply chain, whether that's climate action? How are we working with them to change or influence our supply chain further down the line? And then there's that consumer piece. How are we educating the consumer? And B Corp for us is a big one because we're able to obviously have the B Corp logo on our pack. So if you go and you buy a packet of Brady's ham at the moment, front of pack, you'll see the little B label. Now, a lot of people won't know what that means.
I think they will in time.
In time they will, but that's a responsibility for us to educate them. And that's through our marketing practices. So we've got a dedicated marketing team that are looking at how they can utilize what we're doing in sustainability to help differentiate us as a company and a product, to educate the consumer. But again, that also needs the support from the customer, the retailer.
Yeah.
And it's not just the flash in the pan, but comms that go out or marketing campaign that goes out. It's how are we really embedding that story in every single communication that we have out there. And that takes time.
How have Enterprise Ireland helped you on your sustainability journey, Nick?
Enterprise Ireland have been absolutely brilliant. And I would see them as a partner of ours. And we have regular catch-ups with our project manager. So over the 3 years that I've been there, we've utilized 3 Green Pluses. So that would be a form of grant that you can apply for to help you get the technical expertise to develop. So for instance, our first one, we developed our sustainability strategy. We got technical expertise to come in and support us in that development process. The second Green Plus, we got technical expertise to come in and support us build proper environmental and energy management systems,
right,
which at the moment now we're taking and we're aligning with the one we have, which is ISO certified in each of our different operations. So all of them are operating to the same management standards. And the current one that we're using at the moment is to support us update our SBTIs. So that's the science-based targets, as well as then develop a decarbonization roadmap and how we're going to actually go about achieving that. As well as what we spoke about a little bit earlier, the materiality assessment and building those stakeholder engagement processes. So just bringing in those experts in each of those fields to support us on that journey. And those Green Pluses have significantly helped us manage that.
So it sounds like Enterprise Ireland were very helpful on a number of fronts.
Oh, completely.
What are the next steps in the business, Nick, around sustainability and where you go?
Next steps, I think for most companies is around reporting and regulation. There's a lot coming down the line.
Yeah.
So for us, it's around getting prepared for CSRD. So CSRD is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive coming out of the EU.
That's right.
A big part of that is the materiality assessment. So effectively, that's just highlighting what are the important ESG topics that we need to focus on as a business and report on. And that would have to be then assured as we would our financials. So as you can imagine, there's a huge amount of different people across the business that need to be involved in that process of understanding the systems that we have in place to track the impact in each of these various areas that we need to report on, as well as then getting your finance team. You have to have your finance team in there just to help with that, obviously, internal audit process when it goes through the final process. So that's a big focus area for us. And then the other one, maybe keeping it more closely to our sector, is the EUDR. So the EUDR is the European Union Deforestation Regulation, which is coming into force end of this year, beginning of next year. So there's 7 commodities that they have raised there within this regulation, that if these are a part of your product or supply chain, you need to put together due diligence statements as well as risk assessments where there may be risk of deforestation occurring due to the raw material of this product. So for us, one of those commodities is cattle.
Sure.
Right? So it's us working with our processor to understand what is the due diligence that we have in place to ensure that the cattle was raised. And luckily for us, that's all Irish cattle in areas that did not cause deforestation.
Okay.
So that's there's a lot of this type of regulations, and this is just one of the examples coming down the line that are focused on sustainability.
What about the community? You talk about employing 600 people, Brady Family Ham, obviously association with the GAA. This strikes me as a company very much embedded in the community. Tell us a little bit about that.
You're 100% right. And it's since day one, since 1978, we've been embedded in the community, and it's been that way ever since. So we have a community engagement program called iCare, and iCare is dedicated towards volunteering as well as fundraising for various communities around the areas that we operate in. So we, as O'Brien Fine Foods, give all of our employees one paid volunteering day.
Okay.
We're coming up with different opportunities for them to go out and volunteer in their communities. And then maybe one just a little bit closer to home with regards to other sustainability issues is our partnership with Food Cloud. So Food Cloud takes surplus food that the retailer wouldn't be able to sell on and distribute it to organizations, charities around the whole country. So over the past few years of working with Food Cloud, we've been able to distribute over 140,000 meals across the island of Ireland.
Yeah, they're really good examples. And, also the fact that those sponsorships and collaborations are going on for, into their second decade really substantiates it.
And I think you said it there, it's about partnerships. It's how can we actually support them on their journey? And we feel very proud of what we've been able to achieve to date.
Finally, Nick, can I ask you about advice that you might give to another company that was maybe considering embarking on the sustainability journey? Given what you know, what you've done, maybe what you've achieved, what would you say to others?
I'd say you have to find a way of getting senior leadership buy-in. It's not just the right thing to do anymore about having sustainability as an integral part of your business. It's a must-have if you want to stay relevant with the challenges coming down the way. So if you're in a sustainability role or you're responsible for that, you need to make this very, very clear to your senior leadership team that sustainability is about preparedness. It's about risk awareness, and it's about building for the future to be able to operate in the future. Secondly, I would say don't be afraid of setting ambitious targets.
Sure.
We have to, even if we don't know how we're going to achieve them right now, that's fine. That provides the urgency to go out there and find the innovation to be able to actually make the changes that we need. We're not moving fast enough in the changes that we're making, and this is businesses across the world, not just here in Ireland. We need that urgency to be able to make the changes, and it really, really does start with businesses. And then measure. Measure your impact and report on it. And it's that old cliche of what's measured gets managed, right? And it's funny enough, you think about, or a lot of people would think about the huge amount of investment that's needed to make a positive impact or change the way that we operate. When you measure things, it's funny how quickly you can change things around that will have a positive impact that will cost you absolutely nothing.
Absolutely.
And I've got 1,000 examples that in my short time at O'Brien's that we've seen just by measuring it more effectively and continually improving on the data that we're getting, we're able to make more conscious decisions around how we act.
Well, look, it's a pleasure to talk to you, Nick. That brings us to the end of this episode of the Sustainable Enterprise Podcast, brought to you in association with Enterprise Ireland. My special thanks to Nick Reynolds, Head of Sustainability at O'Brien Fine Foods. Please do continue to check out the rest of the podcast series, which we will continue to bring you the sustainable stories of Irish businesses.